Welcome to the Pop Art Hunter channel, and today we're going to be talking about a Broadway show. If you don't know, I like Broadway shows and Cirque du Soleil and concerts and entertainment in general, and so sometimes I will go on road trips that I'll go to different theater performances, Broadway touring shows, concerts, comedians, etc. And one of those shows that I saw was Matilda. So we're actually going to be looking at the souvenir program for Matilda. The reason we're looking at this is because I collect souvenir programs from all the shows that I see. If they have a program available, I'll buy it. If they don't have a program available, I'll try to find a program, one of those souvenir programs from when it was originally released. So we're going to be looking at this and kind of talking about the show and whether I liked it, whether I hated it, a little bit of a post-mortem review. I don't think it's touring anymore right now, maybe in the UK. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about what I thought about the show, whether you should see it, and if this is something you enjoy. If you enjoy Broadway stuff, I think you might find it interesting. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Unlike the normal reviews of books or paper type materials, I typically don't go through every page of it because I don't want to spoil anything. But here I'm actually going to go through every page. I have not looked at this in quite a while, so hopefully this will spark some memories along the way a little bit more candidly than me having prepared what I think is good about this show. Because I do think this is a good show. I've seen Matilda twice. I loved it both times. I saw the Broadway touring productions, and it's just a fun show. I don't recall liking the movie. I haven't seen the movie in many years, but the Danny DeVito, Rhea Perlman, little girl whose name I can't remember. I don't remember liking that movie. I think I kind of hated it. It might be good, and maybe I'm not remembering. I just remember not caring for it. And so when this came out, I almost didn't go see this show. It was kind of a fluke that I even got tickets to it. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It's one of my favorite Broadway shows that I have ever seen. So we're going to go page by page, see what I remember, and see what stories I have. So this is the set, and it's made up of all these like play blocks and alphabets. The backdrop, it has bookcases with books, but these are all like, the alphabet blocks, and they're hanging around. So the set is very stylized. It's got a unique kind of look to it, and I like it. It works really well. I'm usually more of a realistic set person. I want a chair to be a chair and a door to be a door. I don't want all this abstract stuff. It works really well with the show because it's this kind of childlike wonderment. You're talking about children. You're talking about these magical elements. You're talking about, things that go in alignment with this. It's kind of an abstract show, and this abstract set just sort of fits. There are lots of children in the show, and they're very, very talented. The touring productions I saw, they would have been fine opening on Broadway the next night. The touring shows sometimes get a bad rap. Like they say, like, the casts aren't as talented, or the cast or this and that. And they're absolutely just as talented. It depends on the quality of the show. If you see a poorly produced Broadway touring show, you're going to have a poor cast, poor costumes, poor lighting, poor sound. If you have a well-produced one, and this one was very well done. Multiple Matildas that travel, multiple of the other characters that will travel and then kind of replace each other. So when the show first opens, it sort of has this tone that it gets you started off on the right way. It starts out very like happy and everything is great, but then it kind of starts talking about how children are, they're interesting. Children are spoiled sometimes, and they're overly protected, and they're put on this pedestal, and my little one needs all this and all that, and you need to do the best job for them, and they're perfect, and you can't possibly say anything bad about them. And then you meet Matilda, who is just treated terribly, and that sets the tone of the show as far as you feel bad for Matilda. And you really loathe all the other people and all the other characters in the show, and you're rooting for her the whole time. But they also start out the show with a lot of humor, and it's pretty ridiculous humor, and they're really good with plays on words and using the lines and the lyrics of the songs to really stick it to each other, and that I really enjoyed. So you have the dad and the mom and Matilda, and she's playing pranks on them and stuff like that. So the general premise of the show, Matilda is a girl who is treated poorly. She gets sent off to a boarding school. The boarding school has a headmistress who is just vile, and there's a teacher who's a very good soul. And what happens at the school, and how Matilda goes from being this poor girl who is treated poorly to getting a better life. general sense of the show. So I won't talk about the story any more than that. I'll just talk about specific elements. This school song is so stinking cool. The first time I heard it, I've listened to the soundtrack many times, and I listened to the soundtrack many times before I saw the show. And the school song was okay at best. It was all right. Wasn't anything special. And then I saw it live, and it completely changed. So, as I told you, there's all these like blocks that are around the set, these alphabet blocks. So an alphabet block would have an A on it, or a B on it, or a C on it, etc. And so they actually, when they're singing the song, they start pushing these alphabet blocks. So, for instance, in the square hole, they would push out a block that had A on it. And then another one would B and C. And they went in order like that. And I was like, that's interesting choice of why they would just shove letters. It's all because the lyrics of the song, they're saying the alphabet. And at one point in the song, the kid's like, I thought I'd learn the alphabet if I went to school here. And the kids, the older boarding school kid is like, you should be listening. You got to be listening more. You got to open your ears. And then they sing the whole song again with the alphabet. So you think you're able to survive this mess by being a prince or a princess. You will soon see, which S-E-E, but it sounds like the letter C. There's no escaping tragedy. And they go through the entire alphabet, and it's just brilliant. It is so brilliant. And every time they say a letter, they shove it through and they shine a spotlight on the letter. And so you're in on the joke then. And listening to the soundtrack multiple times, I never got that. Watching it in person. And then they even get kind of creative with the letters, like it's a living L. H-E double hockey sticks. But the way you say it in a British accent is, oh, bloody L. And so L ends up being the word. And of course they end it with phys-ed. Phys-ed, Z being Z in Canada and other places. Because we call it Z in America, but it's Z there. So really, really cool song. Best part of the show, Trunchbull. Period, hands down, no questions asked. You ask other people and they don't like her, they're wrong. I'm right. Love Trunchbull. She has the first song called The Hammer. Trunchbull is just a hilarious character played by a man, and it's just a funny character. It's just a hilarious character. She's the villain, but you also root for her in a certain way, and she's also hilarious, and so you like listening to her. Loud's an incredible song. I would strongly recommend getting the soundtrack for this now. Just stop the video. Don't stop the video. Pause the video. Go get the soundtrack. Come back. Listen to it while you're watching the video. Maybe separate. Don't listen. Anyway, get the soundtrack. Loud's a fun song. It's just vibrant. They do a lot of fun dancing in that song. Bruce is a good one. This little kid Bruce decides he ends up stealing Trunchbull's cake. Trunchbull is upset with him and says one of the best lines in Broadway history. Says that he has to eat the cake, and he said, "I can't eat the cake." And she said, "Well, you should have thought about that." I would do the voice, but I don't want to ruin it. You should have thought of that before you made a pact with Satan and stole my cake. Like, she's so over the top and ridiculous. Made a pact with Satan and stole my cake. There's a lot of cool elements in the show. There's a song where they talk about growing up, and they have these swings, and they're swinging, kind of not over the audience, but kind of towards the audience. And again, it fits in very well with that alphabet set and that very abstract stuff. Trunchbull doing a ribbon dance there. Definitely rejoice, because it is just a fun show. There's kind of this subplot with this. Matilda's kind of seeing visions, and she's telling the story about these things, these dreams she's having, and you find more about that as the show goes along. Again, I don't want to spoil the entire plot of the show, but this is my favorite part of the show. This is a song called "The Smell of Rebellion," and it's got Trunchbull in phys ed class, and she is trying to find out who is doing these bad things to her. And so she assumes that the smell of the sweat will essentially help her find out who the culprit is. I know it sounds weird, but the smell of rebellion, the stench of revolt, essentially she's going to be able to sniff out who the bad person is and who's doing these things to her. And it's a fun song. There's some fast parts. There's some weird parts. This is my favorite part of the show, period, hands down. I don't care what you say. Love it, love it, love it. But it's tied with Quiet. And I say that because these are such different songs. This is the most ridiculous song in the show, but one of my favorites. And Quiet is a really, I don't want to say emotional or moody, but it's just a good song. It's kind of inside this little girl's head, and she's describing how she feels and how everything on the outside is just so loud, and she just wishes she could just be calm, and have kind of a symbolic of, just having a life without chaos. And so it's kind of a cool song. So yeah, then there's some other things that happen in the show. And then the final number, Revolting Children, cool ensemble piece. The whole cast, including the adults and the children, are doing this really cool, like, rock song. It almost feels very like School of Rocky kind of thing. Really, really cool. I love this show. Love, 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 love. Download the soundtrack. Go watch it. It's just a cool story. It's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a lot of inside jokes. There's some breaking of the, the fourth wall or third wall, second wall. They break some walls, and they will, they'll be talking with the audience and interacting with them in a way, but it's done in just one part of the show that I know of for sure, that it's just done in a fun way. And it's funny. It's a humorous show. It's a touching show at times. It's a visually appealing show. The music is great. It's, I love it. I love Matilda. I think it's a great show. I think it's got some good music. It's got great humor. It's very clever. The songs are great. The costumes are great. The set design is great. The story is unique. It's really a cool show. If you get the opportunity to see it, whether it's going to be at the Broadway level or, a revival or something like that, or if it has a tour that comes around, or if it's something you see in the community theater and, they're doing really good work at those community theaters. Sometimes you see, it's like the high school production of Matilda and it's not very good. And so make sure you're seeing a decent production. But I saw a community theater version of Matilda, and it was a very well done production. They actually did some things I thought, well, that was really a clever way of doing that. I wish the Broadway show would have done that or considered that idea. Sometimes, necessity breeds creativity. And so when you don't have $1 million budgets, you're able to kind of come up with some really creative solutions. And so the Broadway production I thought was fabulous. But even in some of these smaller theaters, I think they do a great job. So if you get a chance to see Matilda, definitely see it. If you don't get a chance to see it, buy the soundtrack, listen to it. It's a good way to, sort of get the sense of the show and the ambiance of the show and without paying that big ticket price, or the fact that the show is not happening anymore, unless it comes out in a movie form or, a TV version or something like that, you might not be able to see it. So soundtrack is an option too. Thanks for watching the Pop Art Hunter, and we will see you next time.